Hey guys, it's Dr. Steve, and I'm a naturopathic doctor. Many naturopathic doctors don't focus on exercise. My background is in bodybuilding, so I understand nutrient metabolism and neurological inhibition and a whole bunch of other factors that many other doctors don't, and other naturopaths for sure don't. So, my specialty is correcting mechanics and changing people's posture and eliminating pain, but I want to talk about nutrition today, and I always talk about genetic nutrition. But the one thing I want to talk about is, and we all have different genetic abilities to metabolize certain macronutrients better than the other. But let's just talk about what happens when we don't metabolize our carbohydrates or our fats or our protein. Because a lot of the bodybuilders and fitness people are consuming these high protein diets and their macronutrients are all out of whack. And so when this happens, it doesn't matter if it's protein, fats, or carbs, but let's just take protein because a lot of athletes think that more is better, and it's not always the case. So typically what happens is you consume too much protein, and it's going to back up down this enzyme pathway if it's not broken down and convert to free radicals and cause inflammation. So with that being said, it ends up going to ammonia, which ends up going, you can't get rid of it, you build up of uric acid, and we get something called peroxynitrate. And that's a free radical that causes inflammation. It can lead to heart disease, it can cause gut distress and permeable gut. So if we consume too much protein, it backs up. We it doesn't we don't utilize it. It doesn't push into the Krebs cycle. We don't use it for energy. We don't use it for cellular repair. And we end up with too much peroxynitrate. We also end up stimulating mTOR because of the amount of leucine that's in it. And if we have an overabundance of mTOR, that feeds every cell and it's not picky. So we get cellular rebuilding. We don't have spend enough time detoxifying in autophagy. And this is real. It exists. So the way that I actually look this up and see how well we're doing on an individual basis is I look at labs, and we look at an organic acid test, and we see if you've been tracking what you've been eating. How is that diet actually serving you? Is it serving you the way that we want? So let's just say you're eating too much protein, and we have an excess amount of peroxynitrate showing up in our labs. We've done the lab. We know that. I might give you some witch hazel, which would bring down that amount of peroxynitrate. But we also, a simple solution would be just to cut back on your fat. We can also give you more superized cyclic dismutase. We could increase nitric oxide production. Maybe a genetic limited ability to produce nitric oxide. And your body, maybe you have an issue with neurotransmitters. And if you have an issue with the neurotransmitters, then we got to improve that to spare the amount of nitric oxide so that you can combat the amount of peroxynitrate from the amount of too much protein that you're consuming. So it's a moving underwater chess game that we're playing to try to get these enzyme pathways to function properly, to have the proper balance of autophagy to mTOR, and to balance out the to balance out the free radicals to antioxidants. So it's this delicate system that we're looking at to see, is what you're doing working? So no matter what, just know that you could be eating too much protein and you could not be. Just depends. And some people can metabolize up to 2 grams and they're fine, per pound of lean mass. Other people can only handle 1, or some people 0.8. And you got to figure out where that is on the spectrum for you so that you're not creating excessive oxidation. Symptoms, if you are consuming too much protein or any certain macronutrient, our lab tests would tell us which ones those would be. But if you are, a lot of times you have achy joints, stiff muscles, you're tired all the time, chronic fatigue. A lot of those things can come from that. So, sometimes just being in a caloric deficit would allow your body to detoxify and feel better. So these are all genetic limitations that could be causing that. We can improve upon those by looking at which enzyme pathways are blocked. I just need to look at your genetics, but we can definitely double check it with an organic acid test. So just be aware that if you're training, sometimes it's not your training of why you're tired and not recovering. Sometimes it is your nutrition, and sometimes it's because you're trying to eat too much to recover. It's not, it's never ever like too much is never a good thing. It's always in a balance. So you got to be paying attention to all those variables. All right, guys. Hopefully that helps. You can find me at protouchrehab.com.